So I think there needs to be a discussion around Jordan Peterson and his recent 1 versus 20 atheist debate that he had, or 25, whatever it was. A lot of people are really going after Jordan Peterson, saying that he looks dumb, was unable to answer simple questions, and that, yeah, he just didn't represent himself well. And I think that those criticisms are fair. If you look at this debate completely out of context for how Jordan Peterson thinks and communicates, I think first and foremost, this is probably the worst format for Jordan Peterson. Jordan tends to, I say Jordan like his first name is Mr. Peterson, tends to have discussions that are incredibly deep, that try to get to the core of a thing and what that means for us as humans. You know, for example, like, is a dragon real? Well, what is a dragon? Is a dragon a mythological creature that doesn't really exist? Okay, well then why is it so popular? Like, because it represents every predator imaginable. And is it just a predator, or is it, a challenge that we have to face? And the dragon story isn't just the existence of the dragon, but the story is a knight's journey to hunt the dragon and defeat it and come back victoriously. So does that represent man's call to action and call to adventure, where we seek out the thing that is difficult for us, the thing that's holding us back, and we go and defeat it and come back better? Is that what a dragon is? Because if that's what a dragon is, yeah, the mythical creature may not be real, but it's real enough that every culture has the story, and it speaks to us profoundly who we are, and its effects on our lives are real. So in that sense, yeah, dragons are real. And that's how Jordan Peterson talks about problems and talks about metaphor and story. And so this debate style, where you get 1 or 2 minutes to have a conversation, does not lend itself well to how Jordan Peterson discusses things. He just starts to get into what things mean before he switches. One of his most popular conversations was with Sam Harris, where the goal there was not a debate to prove the other wrong, but rather a conversation. And in that debate, quote unquote, it was 8 hours long over 2 nights, where they both sought to understand each other, and they both sought to get closer to the truth. And that's how Jordan Peterson talks. So in this debate, there was a moment where Jordan Peterson was questioned on his belief of God. And, it started to really devolve from there. Where Jordan Peterson started to say, I wouldn't lie to save my family, because ultimately he said he doesn't think that lying would actually save them. What does he mean here? Because it's a lot to unpack. And if you look at the context of how Jordan Peterson looks at the world and thinks about the world, one of the things he studied very closely, and I think he even taught courses on this in college or university, was 20th century atrocities, right? Hitler and Stalin and Mao. And one of the things he talks about is how these things come to be, right? That every person has within them the ability to be a concentration camp guard, right? And how does that come out? And in his view, it starts with small lies that we tell ourselves, even to save our own lives. And you do enough of those, you get enough people that are willing to bend the truth and lie to themselves and lie to each other to save themselves. And you do enough of that, and you end up with Nazi Germany. You end up with communist Russia and the gulags. starvation of hundreds of millions of people. So when he says, I'm not so sure lying would save my family, that's probably what he means. That's probably what he's getting at. And so it's not clear to me whether he actually would lie to save himself and his family. And maybe that's pompous and arrogant, and he might, ultimately actually do it. But it seems to me that he genuinely believes that lying moves us closer to that end state. And so he tried to say all kinds of things have gone wrong when you get to a point where you have to lie in order to save lives. Right? When Germany got to the point where people were hiding Jews in order to save their lives, how many lies had been told and believed and understood and perpetrated before they got to the point that Jews' lives were at stake? That was the point he was getting at. And so that is a deeper conversation than the gotchas that I think the guy's name was Parker was trying to get him in. If I can just prove one element of this discussion to be illogical or to not make sense on the surface, I've got him and I win, right? And it's like winning is not proving the other person wrong. Winning is, does the audience get closer to the truth? So again, I think the debate format doesn't lend itself to how Jordan Peterson communicates, how he looks at the world. And you know what? I'm realizing this is a terrible angle for myself, but I hope that you kind of found this a little bit interesting. Let me know your thoughts.